Welcome to another video. Welcome to another episode of the Willie Bragg Show. I'm your host, Willie Bragg. Make one excuse. I woke up late. This is why I'm 30 minutes late. So I'll do better, and I'll cut it. I'll cut to the chase and just leave it at that. But anyway, y'all been warned about. There's always a chance of a schedule change, and you've seen what happened. So anyway, Desert Mantis, how are you doing today? Yeah. I'm doing okay, and I see some of the usual people here around the world with D and friends. How are you doing? And let's see, we have Ed Heller. I did my countdowns already. My countdowns to my countdowns. I sure did. So we'll get started underway. And basically, what I'm going to make it. I'm going to start off by saying this video. It's not an endorsement of Kyle Rittenhouse because politically, I don't endorse the politics of Kyle Rittenhouse at all. I want to make that clear from the get-go. With Ron Paul, this is not an endorsement of Ron Paul's overall libertarianism. I do respect Ron Paul, but I don't endorse his entire ideology. But there are aspects of Ron Paul's ideology that I do agree with from my leftist point of view. So that I just want to get that out of the way. And I think that my audience understands where I'm coming from when I say this. So if you want me to, do you want the paneling? I can arrange that real quick, Ed Heller. Give me a second. Just to take moments. Let me go to the virtual background, and we can have paneling. We can make that arrangement. If I didn't get rid of it. Okay. Oh, that's actually not too bad looking. Okay. How's that? Is that better? Actually, that looks better, believe it or not. Anyway, okay. Paneling and all. Getting back to what I was saying there, I endorse me. Yes. You got the paneling right there. Wood paneling will travel. Getting back to what I was saying, I think my audience understand where I'm coming from in relation to Ron Paul in that regard, because he has to stop clock, given the right time twice a day in terms of foreign policy. Being anti-war, we're on the same side on the drug war for the most part. When it comes to things like the NSA spying, and he did jump on board being opposed to capital punishment. So there are things that, as I said, that's in Ron Paul's worldview that I do respect and all of that, and he has in his own way, from his conservative perspective, have taken on the right wing in areas where they needed to be taken on, and in that regard, I have to give him my respect. So regarding Ron Paul, but with regard to Kyle Rittenhouse, I'll say this: that I am not I'm not a fan of Kyle Rittenhouse, but in being not a supporter of Kyle Rittenhouse. I don't know how that screen got bigger than it should have been, but anyway, in not being a fan of his, I was kind of impressed when he decided to endorse Ron Paul instead of going with Donald Trump in the 2024 election. It's not because I'm on Team Blue and I'm like, yes, Queen to Kamala Harris. I do not endorse Kamala Harris. I do not endorse Donald Trump. I want to make that clear. Basically I co-endorse Cornel West and Jill Stein. In your state, I would tell people you can do what you want. You can vote for whomever you want, but I would say that in your state, if Cornel West or Jill Stein is on the ballot, those are the two candidates I would say to choose, and use your judgment, because I pretty much equally like both candidates. I hate that they're running against each other. Technically, I blame Peter Dow, but that's another issue for another time. But with regard to Kyle Rittenhouse, I have a little bit of empathy in this sense for him. I understand what it's like to feel the wrath of the large team giving you shit because you decide to go and vote with your conscience instead of voting for what is politically expedient. In other words, I remember getting lectured every 4 years since I started voting third party for president in 1996, starting with Ralph Nader, how much shit I would get from Democrats when I had voted third party. Because voting for the Democrats on issues that are dear to me doesn't result in anything. Voting harder doesn't result in doing what I want to have done. Now, I'm not going to say under no circumstances you never vote for a Democrat. I will say give them a one chance. I give them a one time, give them one chance. If they let you down, just go with another choice. Go independent next time. So that's where I stand on that. And if you really have your heart in a third party, go with that third party choice from the get-go. That is where I stand. And if you run in the Democratic primary, if you're an individual leftist and you run in the Democratic Party, I deeply encourage you to do it and do a dirty break, meaning run in the Democratic Party, try to get the nomination if you can, and if you can't get the nomination and it's possible to run as a third party candidate in your district, in your state, or what have you, whatever office it is, do what is called a dirty break. I remember that they were encouraging Marianne Williamson, for example, to do a dirty break. They were encouraging Bernie Sanders as far back as 2016 to do a dirty break. This is why the People's Party was created. It was created for Bernie Sanders for that dirty break. But, we don't know what's going to happen with the movement for People's Party. They're the butt of a lot of people's jokes these days. They don't have to be. I don't make fun of them. I generally like the ideology of the People's Party. I kind of wish that maybe the People's Party, the Green Party, the Socialist Party USA, and other third parties of the left can come to a consensus and unite around a candidate one election cycle to have a united voice of the left outside the Democratic Party. That would be good for a change. But that's just me, It's going to take something like that and a little bit of discipline in this two-party swamp that we are in, this two-party dystopia that must be crushed. I mean, it needs to be gotten rid of and be replaced with proportional representation or something like that, ranked choice voting. And I'm not committed to one method of how we do things. I'm for whatever it's going to take to weaken the two-party system. Political fusion, even. I will go along with that. I've never been opposed to political fusion. I've actually liked the idea of political fusion, meaning that a third-party candidate third party can endorse an individual from the two-party system if they want to, such as in the case in New York when the American Labor Party of New York State, endorsed Franklin Roosevelt for president in the 1930s and the 40s. That's basically what I'm referring to by political fusion. But that's, I'm going into the nuts and bolts of electoral politics and all of that. But it does relate to Kyle Rittenhouse from his perspective. And he had his reasons for supporting Ron Paul over Donald Trump. And we know he's not going to support Kamala Harris. And thing about it is that I'm, as I said, I don't particularly care for him, but in this rare instance, I'm not going to fault him, and I'm going to be like, okay, you're voting with your convictions. I really can't fault you for that. So next, we're going to talk about Ron Paul. Now, Ron Paul is a complicated figure in a lot of ways. I first heard of Ron Paul when I graduated high school, and I was visiting my grandparents. I was visiting my grandmother. My grandfather died a couple of years earlier in Puerto Rico in the summer of '88 after I graduated high school, and I watched the Morton Downey show. And in watching the Morton Downey show, I got a chance to see who this Ron Paul character was. And he made a good impression on me from day one, even though I was never going to be a libertarian. I found out what libertarianism was right away. There was parts of it I liked, and lots of it I did not like. And I was a partisan Democrat back then. I was a committed Democrat back then. My first vote a couple of months later was for Michael Dukakis, the governor of Massachusetts, against Vice President George Herbert Walker Bush. Having that said, he was talking about legalizing drugs, and they were making him out like he was some kind of a village idiot. And listening to Ron Paul, he made a great case for legalizing drugs. Now, back then I was a teenager, going into adulthood, and at that point I was drug free, but not to say I wasn't later on, but the idea of legalizing drugs, it was just like I would like to go and possibly buy pot and not be arrested. That's what I was thinking of as a kid back then. I would like to go and do these things. I had a curiosity of what it would be like to be on acid, things of that nature. In the 1980s. I was never into the cocaine culture or even had an admiration for it. I was kind of a strange individual in that regard. But to each is their own if that's what somebody wants to do. But listening to Ron Paul, I was impressed with what he had to say. And Morton Downey tried to sit there and make him sound like he was crazy. I'm like, no, he wasn't crazy. Ron Paul was on to something. So I found out what the libertarianism was all about and everything. And I was just like, I picked and choose from it. I hated their economics, but I like a lot of their social views, the government staying out of your personal life. But I certainly then, as I do now, believe in state interference into the economy in a way that's going to be beneficial to people, not corporations. Henceforth, back then I would have just called myself a liberal or a progressive, but today, I'm a socialist. I'm a democratic socialist. So, and that's where I became a democratic socialist by the time I was in college. And no professor indoctrinated me to become a socialist, or they did not indoctrinate me to become a socialist in the way that that some right-wingers think that I was going to become a socialist. I mean, I did become a socialist taking a history class by a conservative professor who tried to vilify Eugene Debs, and he couldn't. And I did my own little research on Eugene Debs, and I was like, nah, I relate to Eugene Debs. But anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent again, and I'm olive branching. Yeah, Patty, I'm olive branching, like you say. But anyhow, thing about Ron Paul is that I've always respected the guy, and when he ran for president in 2008 in the Republican primaries, they did to him. The media, the Fox News people, did to him what CNN were doing to Dennis Kucinich, and what CNN and MSNBC did to Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020, which is either to be dismissive or to attack him. Now, what Ron Paul did, he actually influenced the Republican Party in some important ways. On one hand, they took what's really awful about Ron Paul and co-opted it into this MAGA movement, a lot of the economics and everything, which isn't populist. I'm sorry, it's just not populism. Libertarian economics is not populist. For a long while, they dismissed what was decent about Ron Paul, the anti-war message, the anti-torture message, the anti-surveillance state message. And a little bit on paper, depending on who you talk to in the Republican Party, they're starting to slowly, some members of Congress, some activists, and on a good day, even Donald Trump would go and echo some of the message of Ron Paul. On a good day. Whether he means it or not remains to be determined. But overall, I still think the Republican Party rejects what I consider the good aspects of Ron Paul's ideology, the opposition to war. They say America first, but when push comes to shove, they may be correct currently on Russia, Ukraine, but they're all rattling their sabers for war of Iran and war with China. And you need to, if you're going to favor negotiations with Russia, Ukraine, you got to do that with Russia, China. You got to do that with Iran. You got to do that between the Israelis and the Palestinians. If you're going to go and you can't sit there and say America first, I want America out of war, and then all these Republicans are sitting there opening their mouth and letting Benjamin Netanyahu go face fuck them, and they're going and having Netanyahu jizzing all over their faces, as he did the other week in Congress with his State of the Union address. So, but anyway, Kyle Rittenhouse, as I said, will be endorsing Ron Paul. And hold on. I almost made a little mistake. There we go. I hit the wrong button. Okay, so now, thing about Ron Paul, another thing I kind of respect about Ron Paul is, in a lot of ways, Ron Paul, more or less, is essentially the Bernie Sanders of if you want to call him right, he is the Bernie Sanders of the right, because or Bernie Sanders became the left wing Ron Paul, because in 2012 when Ron Paul was running for president, it was like Beatlemania for a lot of these young guys. They're like Ron Paul, woohoo, woo, Ron Paul, and the thing about Ron Paul is that he was right on a lot of stuff, like the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012, to be opposed to it. And we're going to get back to Kyle Rittenhouse in a minute. Of course, Ron Paul voted against it. Bernie Sanders voted against it. And Ron Paul's son and Bernie Sanders together worked on legislation to put a stop to the selling of arms of the United States to Saudi Arabia, that put the United States in a situation where they were overseeing a genocide taking place in Yemen. So unfortunately, Trump vetoed that legislation, and arms sales went to Saudi Arabia anyway. When Tulsi Gabbard was cool, she referred to Donald Trump as Saudi Arabia's bitch. She was correct in 2020. Now, that pretty little pie hole of hers, all she wants to do is suck on Donald Trump's cock all day long. So, kind of makes me wish I was Donald Trump in that instance. In that regard, it's a nice thought. But anyhow, anyway, suffice to say, Bernie Sanders and sort of occupy the left as a left's Ron Paul. So that's basically the point I'm trying to make about where the left and the right, where there is some commonality. And that doesn't make you red-brown alliance adjacent when you talk about Ron Paul in a favorable light if you're on the left. It doesn't. Now, if you're talking about David Duke in a favorable light or something like that, that's a whole different story. Why would you? But Ron Paul is a good man. You know, David Duke is not. You know, I mean, we're talking about somebody's different. It's night and day in that regard. So next point I want to make is getting back to Kyle Rittenhouse is this post I saw the other day. I commented on it as well. And it was on Twitter. Friend of the show, Craig Passadula, was commenting to the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. I'll read you Pasta's remark and then go into how it started. And because it, you know, I'll let you know. It'll explain everything here. Pasta Jardula says, he stood up to communists. What a stupid comment. His situation had nothing to do with communism. Stop pushing your ideology on everyone by squashing others. We know, Jeremy, that you're a full-blown anarcho-capitalist and you think everyone else should be. Just give it a rest. Already stupid. So stupid. Communists. You watch too many movies, homeboy. Referring to and it's true what he just said. I'll go into what that particular response. And I said in the response, this country's Overton window. Hold on a second. This country's Overton window is so fucked that people actually think that self-righteous shitlifts promoting rainbow capitalism as communists. Even Bernie Sanders and the squad years ago, when they were supposedly as radical as they claim, were mild social democrats who would be satisfied if America would turn into Norway or Sweden. But that's enough in America to make you a communist, because that's how fucked up we are. But what Pasta was referring to was the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire, where he says that Rittenhouse didn't have to do this. He knew it would be unpopular. Rittenhouse stood up to the communists in Kenosha at a great personal risk. Now he's standing up to the gun grabbers running for president. Kyle Rittenhouse is truly a hero. Now, it is true that the people in Kenosha were not communists. They're a bunch of young activists that are opposed to police brutality, and that's what it came down to. But in right-wing land, that makes you a communist. Anything makes you a communist in this country these days. It doesn't take a very high bar, to make you a communist or a hardcore leftist. It doesn't. And anybody who thinks that Donald Trump is far left, and anybody who thinks that Kamala Harris is far left, they are certainly fucking out to lunch. So I'll go ahead and play you the video from Kyle Rittenhouse himself. Give me a second. Come on. Where are you? Okay, where's that post? Okay. Come on. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to get that post. Okay, I'll get that Kyle Rittenhouse post. Give me a second. I thought I was going to be able to get that Kyle Rittenhouse post. Kyle Rittenhouse. I'll be able to get that video for you real quick. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Kyle Rittenhouse, Outreach Director for Texas Gun Rights. A lot of people are upset that I said I'm going to be writing in Ron Paul for President of the United States. And that is true. I will be writing in Ron Paul. Unfortunately, Donald Trump had bad advisors making him bad on the Second Amendment, and that is my issue. If you cannot be completely uncompromisable on the Second Amendment, I will not vote for you, and I will write somebody else in. We need champions for the Second Amendment, or our rights will be eaten away and eroded each day. I support my decision, and I have no takebacks.
Okay, and so he's getting folded by some people in MAGA for doing this. And as somebody who's going to vote third party for president, again, I can understand and respect that. So even though and now even on the Second Amendment, I don't know where each and every one of y'all stand on it. I am a relatively pro Second Amendment person, not because I love guns. I don't own a gun. I don't plan to own a gun anytime soon. But I will say this much. I do support the Second Amendment because for this reason, for several reasons. One, it's already in the Constitution. And if you start to remove amendments from the Constitution, especially the Bill of Rights, you're going to have a thorny situation where it'll be easier to remove other amendments from the Constitution. And before you know it, you'll have a lot of rights gone before, So it's not even one of my favorite amendments in the Constitution. Do I think gun control works? It works, but it would not work in the United States. So if I lived in the UK, if I lived in Japan, if I lived in, I don't know, if I lived in Australia, if I lived in any of these countries around the world that has gun control laws where they obviously have less crime, I will not challenge the existing laws. I wouldn't crusade to make them more strict. But I wouldn't go and I would not try to advocate what the NRA would advocate here in the United States either. But while I would never join the NRA, and I have my harsh critique of the NRA because they're politically partisan and committed to a culture war outside the issue of guns, if they would just shut the fuck up and just stick to the issues of guns and not be so fucking partisan about it, I could possibly be okay with the organization, but because they're so politicized and with the politics that I generally oppose overall, a good 95% of their politics I'm opposed to, I just can't get involved. I'm not faulting those. I know there are actual liberals who belong to the NRA or progressives and what have you. And my answer to them is don't join the NRA. Create your own progressive gun ownership organization or go and join the Socialist Rifles Association. I would say do that. Join the Socialist Rifles Association. That's what I would encourage people to do. And I also have other reasons. I'm a populist or try to be a populist, and if you go and take away people's gun rights, it's part of the American culture. No, I'm not a MAGA communist or anything like that, but and I am not exactly like the most patriotic person in the world, but there are some aspects of Americana that relates to left-wing populism that should be preserved. And that would include the benign aspects of gun ownership, and also a lot of gun manufacturing companies are union. And why we attack a company that's unionized when we have when we have unions that are in decline anyway? So that's the angle I'm coming from, right there. So and also with regard to the alt-right and how dangerous they are, I do think that African Americans, Jews, Hispanics, LGBTQ people, and all other marginalized groups need to protect themselves from right-wing vigilantism, because and the left to be included in that. They need to protect themselves. I'm pro peace, but I'm pro self-defense too, and I'm not advocating violence. I'm pro self-defense. So I don't want the algorithms to go and reinterpret my words the wrong way. And I'm questioning if I even should have said what I just said. But anyway, I really am questioning that, because I am not advocating any violence whatsoever. But what I'm also going to say is this. as a civil libertarian, I do include Second Amendment absolutism in my worldview, and I am a pacifist. As a general rule, I'm anti-imperialist when it comes to foreign policy. When it comes to foreign policy, I mean, I'm opposed to what's going on, what the U.S. is trying to do right now, because they're going to make the world more unsafe. Not to say that I'm necessarily for the other side either. I'm a pacifist. I'm a third camp internationalist, and I don't have enough time to define what a third camp internationalist there is, but I'll go into third camp internationalism one of these days. If Catherine Ann McCloskey was here, she and I could discuss third camp internationalism. And there's a few others that's been on my show that knows what the hell I'm talking about. But suffice to say, it's Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, I just found this on my feed, and I'm going to be watching this with you for the very first time, so I don't know what Kyle Kalinske is going to be saying about Kyle Rittenhouse, but I'm kind of curious. So let me go ahead and play what Mr. Eminem has to say about it. Come on. He's thinking. Okay, here we go.
All right, guys. So apparently Kyle Rittenhouse caused quite a stir over the weekend. Let's talk about it. Kyle Rittenhouse does a 180 and endorses Trump after deluge of hate messages from the MAGAverse. So at first he came out and said, I'm not voting for Trump. And then after getting shit on for 12 hours straight, he did a 180. Kyle.
Okay, I'm kind of glad I caught this. Apparently, he decided to support Donald Trump after all. So there you have it. I'm going to have to put this in the description box when I'm done here. So, but anyhow, I'll go in. I have something to say about that in a few moments. So I'll let him continue.
Kyle Rittenhouse endorsed former President Donald Trump on Friday after being deluged with hate messages following an earlier announcement he would write in former Representative Ron Paul in 2024. That's the pinnacle of libertarianism. The 21-year-old who was tried and acquitted in the shooting of the deaths of two men during a wave of civil unrest in Kenosha, Wisconsin in 2020, had called Trump bad on gun rights and vowed not to vote for him in a post on X, formerly Twitter. But after half a day of receiving hate messages and facing accusations of treason, the Second Amendment advocate announced he had pivoted and would support Trump's third White House bid. Rittenhouse tweeted, over the past 12 hours, I've had a series of active conversations with members of the Trump team. That's embarrassing. And I am confident he will be the strong ally gun owners need to defend our Second Amendment rights. My comments made last night were ill-informed and unproductive. I'm 100% behind Donald Trump and encourage every gun owner to join me in helping send him back to the White House. Wow. The sudden about-face followed a torrent of attacks launched against Rittenhouse, who met with Trump after he was acquitted in 2021. Many of those attacks were from accounts that had accused Rittenhouse of being disloyal to Trump's MAGA movement. So this guy says, oh well, Kyle, I regret to inform you that I will no longer be one of your guests on September 12th at the TXGR event. I reckon you can write in someone else. This was not the way, bud. So that's one person. That one was actually relatively nice. This one says, just unfollowed you. If not for MAGA, you would be rotting in a prison, bending over for Bubba. MAGA raised unbelievable sums of money for you. Trump welcomed you into his home. This is how you thank him in the MAGA movement after all those years of support. Fuck you. And the, or she wrote in on maybe, don't care enough to click. Wow, this is really disappointing after how much support he gave you. Voting Ron Paul is pretty much voting for Kamala. Very ignorant. Kyle Shittenhouse can go eat a dick. Respectfully, Kyle, can you please explain what changed? If Harris wins, the Second Amendment is finished. God, these people know nothing. It's hilarious. In his initial remarks about his inability to support Trump, Rittenhouse said, if you cannot be completely uncompromisable on the Second Amendment, I will not vote for you. He added, we need champions for the Second Amendment, or our rights would be eaten away and eroded each day. And then here's a tweet from Kyle that says, stand by your principles. So he said, I'm not going to vote for Trump, and I'm going to vote in Ron Paul. Then a little while after that, he posted another video basically being like, you guys don't scare me. I'm standing on my principles, bro. I'm not taking a goddamn thing back. And then again, fast forward, it was 12 hours from the very first tweet to this one. He's like, okay, I guess I'll vote for Trump. Trump's people talk to me.
Okay. I'm going to put down, as I said, I found out during the live stream that he did a 180 and he decided to endorse Donald Trump. So I'm disappointed. Now I'm going to say I'm disappointed with with Kyle Rittenhouse, as it turned out, and as opposed to the respect I had for him. So I have to go and take it back because I'm not taking down the stream. I'll put the disclaimer that I found this out as I was doing the stream. Kyle Rittenhouse doing this, while I am going to make fun of him for it, I'm going to still have a little bit of empathy in the sense that I voted Green Party in 2020, but I almost went into the vote blue side in 2020. I almost voted for Joe Biden because I got a lot of shit for voting Joe Biden in 2016. But Joe Biden happened to say too many things that pissed me off, that set me off. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this because if I go and vote for Joe Biden, what if I vote for Joe Biden and he ends up doing nothing? And I'm going to feel dirty for doing that. So I went and voted for Howie Hawkins. And I got some problems with some political issues with Howie Hawkins, who ran in 2020. He's a nice guy, but I don't like his position on Russia, Ukraine. That's probably my big issue with Howie Hawkins. But I'm glad I still voted for him over Joe Biden. And that's my point right there. So, Kyle Rittenhouse, I respected him for going with Ron Paul, but then you're going to go back to Donald Trump. That's just mental. That's mental.
Okay, so a couple points. Number one, it is the most embarrassing thing I've ever heard that people around Trump, like Trump's campaign, they reached out to Kyle Rittenhouse. They're like, please, stay with Trump. Vote for Trump. We promise you we'll be good on this issue. We promise you. Imagine bending over backwards to get this fucking dweeby little nerd's endorsement. Like, literally the only reason he's known is because he shot some people. That's it. Now, by the way, the court case was what the court case was. And if you want to say, hey, that was all in self-defense, hey, you're entitled to that perspective and that position. But let's not pretend like he's known for anything else other than just shooting people. So all you have to do in order to become a star on the right is kill some people who have different politics from you. That's it. Like that, you get elevated to hero status if you murk some people with the opposite politics. That's
okay, Kyle. I'm going to say something about that. I don't respect Kyle Rittenhouse. He came out there to be a vigilante in that night in Kenosha to protect property which was insured. So he was a dumbass for coming out there to begin with. And those activists went out there chasing him and all of that. All of that was unfortunate and everything. He was scared when he was running out there. He did put himself out in harm's way. But on one hand, but what would you do if even though I don't like Kyle Rittenhouse, if I was in his shoes and I had people running after me, scared for my life, what would you do? And I'm not saying that what he did was correct. But that's kind of murky right there for me, And again, I'm no fan of Kyle Rittenhouse. I had no respect for Kyle Rittenhouse for what he did. I mean, for putting himself out there to be a hero. I know people like Kyle Rittenhouse. I've known people like Kyle Rittenhouse, little fat, pudgy kid-like people that has an issue with a culture war narrative and has a Bubba mentality about the world. I know people like that. Believe me. And Snipe Hunter knows who I'm referring to in this video. I don't know if he would have done what Kyle Rittenhouse have done, but there is a similar mindset to they have a similar mindset. I'm sure that Kyle Rittenhouse is a little less socially awkward than this person, but to me, there's a little bit of an overlap. But anyway, I just wanted to interrupt and bring that point out. I'll let Kyle Kalinske who's blonde now. I'm sorry, Kyle. You need to dye the hair back to the dark color. It looks ridiculous.
That's always disturbed me. To elevate him as some sort of hero and have him do the right-wing speaking circuit and have him take pictures with politicians. It's like all he did was kill. That's it. Okay, so that part's embarrassing, that the Trump campaign reached out to him. I mean, Jesus Christ, they were way too fucking online if they did that. But the other thing is, look, I respect the original position. He's like, look, I'm not going to vote for Trump because my thing is the Second Amendment. I think he curtailed the Second Amendment. I don't like that. I respect that. I respect that because it's an actual policy-based perspective, right? Now, I don't know which things he would point to as, hey, Trump curtailed the Second Amendment with this, right? I do know, I remember Trump banned bump stocks. Remember that? Trump banned bump stocks because they had been used in a couple of recent shootings, and it's sort of like a workaround to the ban on fully automatic weapons. And so he banned bump stocks. I remember giving him credit at the time for banning bump stocks. I thought that was a good idea. And my guess is that's probably what Kyle Rittenhouse was thinking of. It's possible he might be referring to maybe a different executive order on guns that I'm unfamiliar with, or some general policy that he pushed that I'm unfamiliar with. But like,
well, it comes down to this. I know a lot of people who love guns, ranging from just a healthy love to a crazy love. And sometimes there are some people who are into guns. You can't meet them halfway. I mean, I'm considered too much of a Second Amendment absolutist for most liberals. The only thing I favor in terms of gun control is a universal background check. And the NRA used to favor that. They used to say, all we need is a universal background check that to take care of things as far as your gun control is concerned. And when some liberals would say, okay, we can go with a universal background check, they're like, oh, no, we don't need no universal background check. They'll go and change their position because they don't want to meet anybody halfway. They want to, they like keeping the gun laws and the gun laws the way it is. I even will not put it past some of the leadership of the NRA and some of the so-called pro-gun activists that they like some of the restrictions because it gives them something to bitch about when it comes to the other side of people that they do not like. It provides the culture war ammunition, if you will, to keep things going. And there's like the pro-gun control people on the other side, because you have people who are on the pro-gun control side that don't go for a full set of gun control the way it's done in European countries. They go with little incrementalism things because they want to also keep their little culture war and their little pet little talking points going. Sort of like the abortion debate. Roe versus Wade was comfortable for both the activists on both sides, because the pro-choice people can scare the Democrats and the feminists and the progressives, saying, the Republicans will take away your reproductive rights. And the Republicans will be like, you go and vote harder, we'll put those judges in there and get rid of abortion. Well, Roe versus Wade's gone. And now the Republicans are like, what are we going to do with Roe versus Wade being gone? A lot of them, I bet you a lot of pro-life activists in the Republican side, even the evangelical ridden ones, are kind of pissed that the Supreme Court did exactly what they claimed they wanted them to do, because they want to keep a culture war going. They want to keep a culture war going on, and both sides need each other. They need each other. It's like what Russell Douglas said on Due Dissidence when with that stupid video cartoon from X. What's the name of that cartoon? The New Norm Show. Where they're sitting there making fun of social justice warriors, and it's a cartoonish, literally a cartoonish interpretation of what they think that the left is, or what they all represent, and those on that section of the left, the social justice warrior left that wants to sit there and silence people for the way they speak about this, that, and the other. They need the obnoxious people on the right to be the boogeyman, and the people on the right needs the purple hair, pink hair, anorexic little social justice warriors, soy kids they're sitting around bitching about their little feelings being hurt to each other. They need each other, just as the gun control advocates and the Second Amendment people in the NRA, the more extreme ones, for example, they need each other to keep a culture war thing going on. And guess what? We all lose. We don't get any Medicare for all. We don't get our union rights restored. We don't get any minimum wage increase. We don't get free college or anything like that. But we'll get more war. We'll get more defense contracts, wealthy, and more defense and more tax cuts for the wealthy. That keeps going on, and the wealthy just sits there and look at us and laugh at us as we sit there and allow Fox News and allows MSNBC and CNN to sit there and set the culture war narratives against each other.
Like, who are we kidding? Trump's position is definitely the more reasonable position. And it seems to me like Kyle Rittenhouse has brought himself to the position, like the Tim Pool position of like, bro, you should be able to have a nuke if you want to have a nuke, bro. It says right to bear arms, bro. This isn't even debatable, bro. You could have a nuke. You could have an RPG. You could have a cannon. You could have whatever, full-ass Gatling gun, whatever you want, bro. Whatever you want, bro. And so he's also showing that he's a literal child yet again here. Like, it's a very childlike, no regulations at all in any way, shape, or form, even though in the Second Amendment, they literally use the word regulate. Oh, man. So, but anyway, the Trump people are really not helping with the accusations that you guys function like a cult. Yeah, they fucking do. And this is the clearest. One person steps out of line and they unleash the demons of hell on him. And then he just falls back and, okay, all right, yeah. Yeah, very healthy system you got going on there. Way to bring people back into the fold, chastise them, berate them. This is what happens when people try to leave cults. It's this sort of angry reaction, the like sort of you're dead to me reaction. Wait a second, isn't it you guys who told us you should steel man your opponents, don't straw man your opponents, you should reach out to people and have conversations and discussions, and you should be willing to discuss any ideas and come to a civilized agreement. And you guys are the ones who tell us about the value of dialogue and the value of discussion and the value of communicating in a way that is reasonable. And then here you are, somebody steps out of line and it's just like, fuck him, he's dead to me. And then you harass him, and then eventually, since he's a child, again, he falls back in line. Oh, I didn't mean it. Well, probably what he realizes, bro, you are hurting your bottom line here. Because the only people that give you love and attention, money, it's the right-wing circuit, right? And so that probably ultimately is the thing that pushed him back in line. But I don't doubt that the Trump people called him, and I don't doubt that the Trump people in particular, like the campaign staffers, they probably were like, look, we'll walk you through it. Here's how much we're pro-Second Amendment or whatever. It's all the cultists who are on social media and the commentators. They're the ones who were, you're dead to me. You're dead to me, Kyle. So anyway, Kyle Rittenhouse giving a bad name to all Kyles. It's a damn shame. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and
right-wing counterculture 101. That's what it is. And this is an opportunity to point out that the right practice cancel culture. I'm sick and tired of having that as an albatross on the left's neck, that only the left practice cancel culture. And he just pointed out where the right is guilty of counterculture, cancel culture, not counterculture. Although they want to pretend that they are the counterculture at times. Anyway, let me go ahead and talk to you all right this moment. And I will let y'all go. Let's see. All right. Let's see. They say America first when they mean business first. Well, meaning business first. That's right. There's semantics. I should be president of the Kyle Rittenhouse and Dylan Mulvaney fan club. They get so much hate, mainly from the opposite side. Now, Kyle Rittenhouse is getting hate from the same people as Dylan Mulvaney. That's actually an interesting point, strangely enough. And I never thought about Kyle Rittenhouse and Dylan Mulvaney in the same sentence, but damn, that's one hell of a correlation that sticks. Wow. Kyle Rittenhouse was put in a bad position by grown adults who should have known better. Technically, that's true, but he should have known better himself. Everybody should have. Everybody should have. I love guns and Pro 2A, along with being 1A and other constitutional amendments, except maybe the 18th, which sucked ass. That's fair. My name is Kyle Kalinske. Yeah. Will the real Kyle Kalinske stand up? I would like to see the 2018 Kyle Kalinske return. Jill Stein and Cornel West was far, far superior to Sleepy Joe. Yeah, that's true. Or Kamala. No candidate party is your vote. Also, F that Rittenhouse jerk. As I said, I officially do not like Rittenhouse. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Protect property was a pretense. They went there to be a vigilante snipers. Oh, I think he had a vigilante mindset. Absolutely. I have said that many a times. He wanted to be Mr. Vigilante. He had a chip on his shoulder in that regard. Very much so. He really should not have been out there, and the adults should have discouraged him from being out there. A 100%. He put it. In a way, he is responsible. I mean, not in the judge room setting, but morally or ethically, he is. What he did was judgment-wise. His personal judgment was fucked by going out there. I mean, what the hell was he thinking? If they love guns, they should be able to marry them. Oh, wow. I have to go, but speaking of which, let me play this, and I'm kind of slow on time. I'm kind of thin on time right now, but I will play this. Hold on a second. Speaking of that, give me a second. Oh, I can't let that go by. I can't pass that up. I can't pass that up. Oh yeah, I can't pass that up. Speaking of the Second Amendment. So I got one more little video to share with y'all. Thank you, Ed Heller. I one more to share with y'all.
Market this weekend, I'm going to talk a little bit about guns, okay? A lot of people in the media have never shot a gun, and they've certainly never masturbated with one. They have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Beto O'Rourke, my gun's not for sale, but my pussy is. And the price is P.F. Chang's. My father and his friends used to hunt me in the backyard. I would run around, and they'd shoot at me. And my father said, if we hit her, the only thing that's going to come out is whipped cream. He was hilarious. The AR-15 is the most popular gun in America, and it's the only thing that's ever made me come. I like guns, and I put them in my pussy. You don't tell me what guns I can own or what people I can own. My father was tortured. He'd never deny anyone else's right to kill. The only one who can take my guns away is Daddy. If Joe Biden tries to take my guns, I will fuck him right out of my house. Uncle Joe, respect me. My mother used to say to me, Megan, you should look more like an AR-15, skinny. And now I have 7 personal trainers, and 3 of them have killed themselves. I killed Jeffrey Epstein.
Just in case y'all didn't know, that was Tim Dillon doing an impression of Meghan McCain. So I just thought I'd go ahead and share that with y'all. I am getting a little bit. I have to go very, very soon. I want to say a quick hello to Earl Laurel. How you doing? And if there's anybody else here, I want to say hello to them as well. I don't want to miss anybody. Is there anybody else that was here? I don't want to miss anybody. Okay. So to sum up what I was saying, I don't like Kyle Rittenhouse. For just a brief second, I was willing to give him an ounce of respect for going to write in Ron Paul, but apparently he decided to go and support Donald Trump because they cucked him into doing it. So fuck Kyle Rittenhouse. Not because I have a hatred for Donald Trump, nor love, but falling back into the two-party swamp. Fuck him. So there's that. Ron Paul, it's okay sometimes. That sort of thing. I have my left-wing reasons to be a Second Amendment absolutist. And y'all got a chance to see a little bit of Tim Dillon doing an impression of Meghan McCain, who's probably worse than Kyle Rittenhouse, strangely enough. Anyway, tomorrow evening at 5:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2:00 Pacific Standard, and that's because she lives on the West Coast. Braglands will be back. Me and Jimi Sunderland will be back. Last week we couldn't do it. She had problems over there with her internet and with the buzz saws, because they were doing some work on the phone lines and all that. And so we'll be back after our hiatus, and we'll have a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on. So there is that. And if you like what you heard, please press like and comment any ways you disagree with what I have to say. Feel free to share content on this channel. As a Second Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Please subscribe to the Willie Bragg Show here on YouTube and all my other platforms. And, of course, always reject corporate media. Please do, for the love of God, reject corporate media. And also remember to let's work together to free and pardon Ed Snowden, to fully pardon Julian Assange, to work for a free Palestine, a world free of war, for free healthcare, and to protect free speech absolutism with no compromise whatsoever. I am Willie Bragg. I will see you all hopefully on Wednesday with this program, but certainly tomorrow with Braglands. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.